Welcome to Nursing Life 101, the most important nursing class you never got to take in nursing school. We will be traversing different objectives like interviewing, what to do in nursing school, boundaries, burnout, and so much more. If this interests you, I hope you are taking good notes because class is now in session. Hello, and welcome to Nursing Life 101. We're so excited to have you here with us as we dive into the world of nursing, sharing our experiences, insights, and a little bit of fun along the way. I'm Christopher, and I couldn't be happier to introduce my co-host.
Hey guys, it's Colby. Together, we'll be bringing you real stories, practical tips, and discussions about all things nursing. Whether you're a fellow nurse or just curious about the life behind scrubs, we're thrilled to have you join us.
Colby, I hate you. No, I was joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. So, as you probably can tell, both Colby and I are pretty decent friends. And,
Decent.
I can say I hate her and she doesn't punch me in the face, which is good.
No, I just almost cried.
But this episode is about friendships and how nursing can foster great friendships and then also how they can hurt some friendships. We want to start with the bad first and then we'll get to the good part.
We'll end on a positive.
Yeah, it's always the good stuff. So, working 12-hour shifts, how does that hurt a friendship?
Well, I mean, as one can probably deduce, when you're spending so much time together, that could either be a positive or a negative. And I think sometimes you find it turns out to be a negative.
Yeah, there's some I literally, and I say it to everybody, but I'm like, that 30-minute lunch break, I don't want to see you. Please don't come to see me. I don't need to see you. Take the lunch break. But also, like, we're thinking specifically like nursing and the people that we work with, but it also hurts those that are not nurses. Has that happened to you? Like any of the people that are like outside of nursing been less friendly because you work so long?
Yeah, I do agree. I think it's really hard for people that don't work in our same environment to understand where we're coming from. I think, and that happens with, this is a podcast episode about friendships, but it also happens with families. Like if you think like I have friends who have families that are locally and they don't understand like why after working a night shift you can't come that next day for an event. So like that same thing with friends, like, oh, you worked night shift, you're off today, like why can't you be here?
Right.
And it's like, I'm trying to sleep, like I'm sorry. And like sometimes people just don't get the culture around nursing. If it doesn't match with what they know and what they do, then it's hard for them to wrap their heads around.
Yeah, they just don't get it.
Yeah. So we tend to end up in close relationships with the people that we work with.
Yeah.
Because they understand our lifestyle.
But then you have those people that are your like go-to people in nursing in your shift. But even 12 hours with a person can be tumultuous.
Yeah. It could be.
And you like learn all these things about this person, and sometimes you and nurse A in the corner does not get along, and that can really, you could be thinking one way and you could have been friends before, but then you tend to go out and get dinner or go out and go party and you start to hang out with them a lot more, and then suddenly you're like, nah, this was not the friend I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've done that.
Awkward. So that's something to say. It's like a very awkward situation. So what do you do from there? How do you get out of that? Like you work with this person, so you're going to see this person. You might be on a 12-hour shift with this person. It might be back-to-back shifts.
I moved units.
Oh, shoot. Well, if it's that bad, that's what you got to do. That's a good example. I mean, that's a hardship, but I mean, if it was not going to work out, then it wasn't going to work out.
Well, it was one of those things where it's like you try, and then the friendship was perceived in a different way, and it just, like, it's just
Yeah.
you have to. There's a whole balance, and I did not balance it at all.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, okay, so it's like a learning opportunity, right? Like sometimes you have to go through something in order to know like, okay, that doesn't work for me, and then I need to like learn how to manage a relationship, whether it's platonic or whatever. But
Right.
you don't know until you go through it, and then kind of get forced to deal with the situation. So you moved units. What?
It's
That's an
like
extreme.
peace,
That was an extreme way to go about it.
and I'm thriving.
And you are
I mean,
thriving.
I
That's
was
so true.
supposed to
So
be.
it's like it was the right decision for you.
Right.
I think for some other options, some other options you can have is, I mean, we talk about this a lot, but like unfortunately, like if you're not willing to move to another unit, you really like where you work and it's just this one person, like crucial conversations is so necessary
Yeah, that's
because
also
like
true.
you need to set a boundary, you need to, I mean, and as uncomfortable as it is, if you're not going to change your unit, you need to kind of toughen up and have the conversation, that or just accept with what you're doing. Just accept it. Like, okay, this person really wants to be my friend. I will be nice to them at work and cordial or whatever, but like I'm going to avoid them outside of work.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, unfortunately, even something as simple as there was a group of us that started on the unit that I started on, and we all would hang out. It was fun. We had a great time while we were working, and then some of them moved to a different unit, and it wasn't that they were, at least it didn't seem as if they were like not wanting to be friends or didn't enjoy our friendship. They
Yeah.
just
You just don't see
appreciated,
them.
yeah,
Yeah.
they appreciated a different specialty, and so they went to a different specialty, and you just, like you said, you don't see them as much. You start to build friendships with
With other
other
people.
people,
Yeah.
and then that time is kind of taken up, and then it's like,
Yeah. It's kind of like in the same sentiment that like people who don't work in healthcare or don't work with them and like your friendships outside of the hospital, like the culture is different. So they just don't understand. And those friendships can sometimes weaken and you don't stay as connected with those people. It's the same way, like even in the hospital, it's like, oh, you're really tight with someone when you're working with them all the time. And then they move to another unit and you just don't see them. And like they have the same schedule issues that you have. And
yeah,
now on top of that, you don't even work in the same unit. So you're just not seeing each other. And it can be difficult. It's kind of sad, especially if you think you were really close with someone and all of a sudden you feel like maybe you're putting more effort in than the other person is, or they feel this, or vice versa.
yeah, and it's. I mean, Roman was such a little puppy. Like I needed friends.
Yeah.
And I was one, and there's a friend that would tell you I was like, I'm not here to make friends. And I was, it's true, I wasn't. But once I got Roman, I was like,
Oh, I need help.
I need a little help.
Yeah.
And Roman was socialized so much because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, homeboy went to a different state,
Oh, really?
multiple states away. But because of that, he was able to be socialized. He was able to get in a car and be fine. Like there
Yeah.
was things that I appreciated, and this was the person I actually told that I wasn't here to make friends with. And like she was really very, very helpful. But now she's she's outpatient, and
Yeah. Don't
like
see her as
I
often.
don't see her as often. We text, but it's like once every 6 months. Like,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
it's really sad because I don't have any ill will on her, but we just don't have the time for each other anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the reality of life, but I do think that we see it maybe I would say like more frequently in healthcare with and again, it kind of comes down to like we work these long shifts, so we get to know each other.
Right.
It gets a little crazy at the nurse's station sometimes. All of a sudden, you're sharing all your past trauma and current trauma. Like everyone's giggling and sorry, I don't have any trauma. We do overshare at the nurse's station, and it does get like funny, and you do get really close with people. But then, and I wish I could remember where I was originally going with this, but I will say this other avenue that I just went down while we're talking about like the hardships of having such close friends. Like at some point you might feel like you've overshared.
Yeah. There are definitely times where,
And then you're uncomfortable with what everybody knows about you.
Yeah,
you have like, while they're your friends, you have to also remember like you are in your working environment, and there needs to be some level of professionalism. And just remember, like, there's a line at work, and like there's some things you can discuss with those same people outside of those doors.
Yeah,
and there's some things that shouldn't be discussed, and everybody needs the reminder sometimes, including myself.
And then there's that line, and it's very hard because
it's hard because they're the same people that you hang out with outside of work. So it's blurry. It's not black and white. It's very gray.
It is very gray. And you might be doing a little extra outside of work that you will have to remember could be said at work because of you like drinking too much and you did something crazy. And like,
it's all of the realities of friendships that you have to like kind of just keep in the back of your head. Like, this doesn't stop with just your friendship. Like, you also work with these people. So like, this is just like general advice for anybody. But like, if you're acting a fool out in public with a group of people, like that's questionable behavior, whatever. Let's say you drink too much, you get into an altercation with a friend. It doesn't end well. Like, okay, now you have the extra layer of seeing that person later in the week at work. Like, you just have to be, it's like life lessons 101. You have to be so careful with what you say, what you do with any relationship, but then also just be prepared. Like, if you're gonna maintain like close friendships at work, that's also another layer to it that you're going to have to address.
Right. Yeah. And and honestly, that was the reason why I was like, I'm not here to make friends. I was like,
I think it's a really bold statement, but, I'm saying that as someone who has flexed in and out of that state of mind as well.
Okay.
I would say, and we have mentioned it maybe in a few podcasts ago when we talked about like how close you get with your coworkers briefly. I don't remember what episode that was, but like we were way too involved in each other's lives at one point.
Oh yeah, you did say that. Yeah,
I did. And I very much so experienced that toxic kind of relationship with coworkers where like we were just involved in every aspect of each other's lives, and I loved them dearly, but it did come to a head, like a group of people. It wasn't like just myself involved. It was like a group of people that kind of like imploded just because we were just way too involved, knew too much about each other. It was like work, home, like just with these people all the time. And I when I left that job at that time, it was very toxic, very not a good pattern going on, and I left at a good time. And when I did, that's when things imploded. But what ended up happening, like some of those people left the job. I came back when I left, I was traveling. So I was just like, as a travel nurse, I feel like it's really easy to kind of just stay on the outskirts and like be very like casual at work. But when I decided to come back to that job that I left, I was like, I will maintain relationships with the people I was friends with before I came here, but I am not here to make friends. So I'm not like trying to hang out with people after work. I'm not trying to like get to know people. Like, I'm just here to do my job and like be really good at it. And I think that's fine. Like I think that's fine for anybody if that's the type of mindset that they have. And I think honestly it's pretty healthy. I think we get really easily trapped in the, oh, it's more than work, they're my family. And that's, again, because we spend so much time with everybody. But I do think that it can lead to toxic tendencies, like you giving more of your time to the hospital than you need to.
Interesting.
I think because you get in that mentality of that you don't want to let your family down,
Oh.
you know? You don't want to let your friends down. You don't want to
Ooh.
let your family down. And I think, it blurs the boundary lines of Christopher's nodding his head right now, but it
Yeah.
really does. It blurs the boundary lines of like your self-care, like
Yeah.
what you need to do to be taking care of yourself. And I think it's really important to be conscious of that.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason why I tell Clin ones to not pick up a shift for the first, 6 to 12, months. It's because people will be like, "We're short, we're short.
Mhm.
Don't you wanna pick up?"
And
It's just one
that
day.
extra money is so
Yeah,
tantalizing.
you're like,
Yeah.
you get extra pay, you get that extra bonus, it's all this stuff.
Mhm.
And, I mean, there are some that truly appreciate someone who picks up. There are others that are just lazy and will end up putting a lot of work on you because you picked up. I guess, trying to figure that out is important, but I also think it's just very hard because transplant has been known as transplant tribe. The reason why we call ourselves a tribe is because we're closer than a family, because if you're born, you're just born into it. But as a tribe, you get a choice to be accepted and to accept the people and the philosophy of that tribe.
Okay.
But it can get toxic.
Yeah, it's a very hard balance, and you have to be very careful. I think using the word tribe might be more healthy than using the word family, but
Hmm.
I think you just have to be very careful with that as well.
Yeah. You had mentioned, kind of getting stuck in that regime of work, work, home, and it's the same people. Y'all were still doing all the things. Y'all practically lived the same life. Do you think it's because of the amount of people? Or do you think, for example, and the reason why I'm saying that, you and I, we hang out quite a bit,
Mhm.
and then we have two other people that are in our little close-knit group.
Mhm.
Now, granted, you don't work with the three of us,
Right.
but I work with the two of them.
Mhm.
Do you think it's because, and we do well, I feel like we joke around. I think we also have established pretty decent boundaries
Yeah.
within the actual workplace that,
That's what I was gonna say. Not to like derail your thought
yeah.
process, but I was gonna say I think also you and I come into it with a very, not to say that they don't, because I think in order for friendships now at this point in our lives need to work, we all have to come into it with a maturity that I personally didn't have at a younger age.
Mhm.
But I think we also have other things going on in our lives outside of work and those friendships, where at the point in my life where I was talking about this group of friends that ended up imploding,
Right.
we didn't really have much else going on in our lives besides work and like what our friend group was doing.
Yeah.
I appreciate our foursome that when we hang out, because we don't spend all of our free time together.
Right.
Like when we hang out, it's like we hang out a couple times a month and it's always fun. But we come to the table and we share what we've been doing, and we all come from we have similar interests, obviously, otherwise you wouldn't be friends, but we all also have different interests. So we're catching up on what so-and-so is doing, what you were doing, what I was doing. I think it's just just a more mature friendship than I've ever experienced. I think with work friendships, at least, I think, and I have other groups. I have other friends.
I don't.
Shut up. I have other friends where it's just I feel like different friends and friend groups fulfill different needs. So I also have, there's a group of girls that I've been friends with for a while who, we I don't know how to explain this, but girlfriends are more than just guy and girlfriends, I guess. I don't know. The ladies will know what I'm talking about. But
Because I don't.
I feel like different friend groups serve different purposes for me personally.
Well, that's why you have different friend groups.
Right.
Is to serve different purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and they all are still mostly around work. But I just feel like I come come to them at a more mature level now, and then I have other things going on in my life, and I think it's important not to lose your hobby or like a sport that you like to do or like whatever. I just think it's important to also be a friend to yourself and not let yourself get consumed in others and in other relationships.
As an introvert, I do that very well.
Yeah.
Well, that's this. Yeah.
Like, I love being alone.
Right.
Whew. One of my favorite things is be alone.
Stay away from me. That's funny. It's interesting because now that you like, can you remember any of your college friends or maybe even high school friends that you were like, I'm going to stay connected with? And maybe you did even through nursing school.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you became a nurse, it kind of like just.
Yeah, actually. So like high school, I still have like my two very best friends that we stay in touch and we talk like every couple days in a group chat. And then, but there's a ton of people that I was friends with in high school that I like trickled out while I was in college. And then it's actually pretty crazy. I had a lot of friends in college and I would say that I was very close to, and like if they text me right now and was like, hey, I'm going to be in town, would love to see you, I would love to get together with them. But like it's wild how even though I spent 4 years with these girls and we lived together, I knew everything about them, I couldn't tell you much about them right now. After when I moved, I mean, we all moved, but like I moved and it's actually really sad. And then the pandemic happened. So like that was really crazy. It was really hard to keep in touch with people. And yeah, I would say like mostly my friends right now are the ones that I made in my adult life at work. And then I still have like my two best friends that I went to high school with that I'm still close with and I keep connected to.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I definitely had some friends in college, but like there are definitely, like I wish and I haven't done it in a while, and I really need to. And I had a friend that I would literally handwrite a letter to, and that's how we would stay in contact.
Oh,
and
that's fun.
We would text each other and be like, hey, be on the lookout for a letter. But unfortunately, that person got married, has a baby now, and like things happen, and I'm like, and they are not near us, in the near 4 or 5 states next to us.
Yeah.
And so writing the letter, I would definitely do it again, but that person doesn't have time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just being conscious of other people's time is important. In my mind, I never want to make them feel obligated that they have to stay in contact and be a friend for me.
Yeah.
But
I totally get that as well.
Right.
And that goes back to me saying like sometimes you feel like you were putting in more effort than the other person is. Not to say that person wasn't putting in effort, but you also don't want to make them feel like they need to put in effort when they don't have the time.
Right.
So it's kind of like two different things, but it's very similar. And yeah, I think that's totally fair.
Do you think that the like healthcare troubles, for example, like having to still do a shift after you had somebody code and passed away, or the lack of staff and being spit at and thrown at and all these things, do you think those troubles also hinder friendships like outside of the healthcare? Like,
yeah, well, like friendships outside of someone else who also works in healthcare for sure. I mean, people don't understand the trauma that we go through every day. And like, I tell people and I tell, friends, and like, they're just looking at you with their jaw on the floor and they can't comprehend. And it's like, sometimes you feel like when you're trying to maintain relationships with people outside of healthcare and you're just like, you just don't get it. Like
yeah.
Like you just like,
yeah.
Like you can tell them and like they'll laugh and giggle, but like they'll never understand on the level as someone else who did it with you,
right,
or has done it in the past.
Yeah,
like they won't, and that's good. You don't want them to. Honestly, my little cousin graduated high school last year, and he had gotten into the nursing program, and I was like so happy and excited, but at the same time I was like, I don't want him to have to go through this. And so when he told us this year, the second semester that he was switching his major, I was honestly, I'm not. He was like so scared to tell my aunt, who's also a nurse. I was like, honestly, I'm not even mad. I'm not even sad. Like, I'm a little sad, but, like, I'm like, he made the right choice. Like, don't do it. Not to say that all of you
I do
listening who
say
are just graduating and listening to this for help, but, like, sorry, that was
you'll be fine.
you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. You'll
We're
get through
fine.
it. Yeah. As I twitch.
Yeah, we're fine. No, but I do think that. I think, like our friends who just there's people cut for the cloth, like cut from the same cloth.
There is.
And it doesn't mean that you need to be cut from the same cloth to be friends, but I do think that they just nobody that does what we do really understands it. Like,
Mhm.
it's fun to tell crazy stories and they laugh and whatever. That's always like, it's a good time to entertain. But, like, when you have a hard day and you're, like, trying to explain, like, oh, I had 4 patients this morning, discharged 2, got one from the ED, coded another, then got another admission right after I coded and sent that person to the ICU. Thank God they made it. Then I got a direct admission from home. I didn't know anything about them. There was no notes in the chart. The doctor didn't respond to my page for 3 hours. The patient was staring at me like, what are we doing here? Like, that kind of stress, you don't understand it. And someone, when you're trying to, like, vent to a friend or a loved one and they just kind of, like, give you a blank look, they're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, they gloss over.
They gloss over.
Mhm.
Eyes dead behind the eyes.
Yeah.
And it's hard to have to maintain a relationship with someone and be close with someone when they just don't get it. You can't relate. Different friend groups serve different purposes.
They do. Yeah.
That's that. I mean, that's not the friend that you talk about your work stresses with. That's the person that you go shopping with, sit on the beach with, whatever, what have you.
So, and you had mentioned this a little bit, the whole working night shift and we have a weird schedule for friends. And I literally, and we schedule 6 weeks in
Yeah. Which sounds like that's a lot of time, but, like, I feel like a lot of time, like, scheduling 6 weeks in advance is so hard because things come up
Right.
after the schedule is put out, and then people are like, can you come to this? And you're like, no, I'm working.
Right.
And they're like, well, just get a switch. It's not that easy.
It's not. It's really not.
Well, can't you just ask for the day off?
No. We had to do that 8 weeks ago.
Yeah. Like, people don't understand it's not like a regular 9 to 5 where you can just be like, oh, sorry, Susan, I'm not going to be here until like 12 tomorrow.
Right.
Like, oh, I'm going to work from home for a couple of hours, or I'm going to take a PTO day later this week. It's like, we have a lot of flexibility in our job, but that's like taking like last minute time short of just calling out. We don't really have that flexibility.
Right. I mean, people say PTO is prepare the others, but like we
prepare the others because I ain't coming.
We don't. It goes back to we are a tribe, we are a family, we are coworkers, and we don't like letting a good majority of us do not like letting our team down by calling out if there's absolutely not a dire emergency.
Yeah.
Or like you're
I
on
like
your
to
deathbed.
call out seasonally.
Oh God.
Once for each season. They're mental health days. I never call out when I'm sick. I work sick as a dog.
I know.
Also,
I heard you.
If you guys listen to the blooper episode, how it's like embarrassing how many shots there are of me being like sniffing my nose, coughing, sounding like I have no voice. I was so sick this winter. I worked all of those shifts. I worked them all. Put a mask on and I toughed it out.
And then she tried to get me sick by sitting right next to me.
I wore a mask.
Oh, you did? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And I didn't get sick.
So masks work.
With my 2 white blood cells.
All you anti-maskers, yeah.
And now the segment break. Hey! So now it's time for Scrub Hacks, which we have done before. In this segment, we'll share quick tips, tricks, and little shortcuts that make the life in scrubs a little bit easier. From time-solving tools to ways to stay organized during the craziest shifts. These are the hacks that help keep us going. Let's dive in and find a few ways to make your day run a little smoother.
All right, the scrub hack. Today's scrub hack is for remembering names. On the subject of friendship, when we're making new friends, we're meeting new people at the hospital, how are you remembering names? What's your hack?
My hack is very simple. I put their name in a notes app, and I usually like put something that
Immediately?
well, no, not
Okay.
no.
I was like, that's kind of rude. You're like, what's your name? Got it.
With the sound still on.
Yeah. Yeah. Clicking of the keyboard.
But then I usually put something they said that kind of like I would remember. For example, when I was at our old apartment,
Uh-huh.
the reason why I learned a lot of their names was because I would be like, "Oh, has this person's dog?" And
Honestly, okay, let me just say this. I'm impressed that you remember the name at the end of the conversation.
well, I'm literally saying it over, and that's the thing.
That's another thing you're doing. You're saying
I'm
it
saying it
over
over and over in my head, probably not paying attention to what they're
what
trying
there's
to say.
because you're trying to remember their name.
I'm like,
Which
this name
honestly
is
will go
important.
will go a lot further with someone if you remember their name rather
Yeah.
than listening to what they said. See, me on the other hand, I'm terrible at this game. Used to be great. Used to remember. I think my ADHD has gotten so much worse. People will introduce themselves to me and immediately I realize I did not know what their name is. Like they'll be like, my name is, and it's like blah, 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 like Charlie
Peanuts,
Brown.
yeah.
And I'm like, then I'm listening to what they're saying, but I already know that I don't remember their name. So then I start like panicking that I don't know their name. Like I just met one of our a new neighbor recently out on the street. I was walking Trout and she came up to me and I think she said her name was Lillian, but I think that I could have made that up. I know her dog's name, Juju.
Oh, see?
I'll
You
remember
Juju.
a dog's name every time, let's be honest. But when it comes to their owner,
How does that make sense?
it doesn't.
Okay.
Because I see the dog and I'm like, dog?
Juju?
Juju. So when I am more conscious of this, like if like she caught me off guard on the street, so
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I am that person. But at work, I try and say their name back to them.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I'll be like, "Hi, I'm Colby." They'll be like, "Hi, I'm Jeff." Jeff, it's so nice to meet you. Then I keep it in my brain, or I'm like, they're telling me something, and at the end of their sentence, I say their name. Like I'll be like, "Okay, Samantha, that sounds good. I'll call you back in 15 minutes." Or
Yeah.
they'll say, "Hi, this is Ren." Hi, Ren. I'm Colby. I'm calling from. So I just do like so hard to say their name back because if I said it back to them, then that's when it sticks in my head. But if I don't say it back,
It's gone.
poof. Like a little magic dust, like poof, gone.
I've been told that if you say it 3 times in the conversation, it's supposed to be able to, like, really cement it.
I'm going to take that away with me. I'm going to put that in my pocket.
Yeah?
Because maybe I need to say it 3 times.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. So usually, and if you say it in the actual conversation, it's better than you just saying it in your head.
Yeah. I've gone to the point where I'm so self-conscious about not remembering people's names that I really am trying so much harder to remember people's names. Yeah. So this was a lot of pressure. This segment break. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't never.
Well, if you have a tip to remember people's names, let us know.
Because I need all the help I can get.
Yeah, I mean, I'm meeting people left and right.
Unfortunately, I am as well.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I mean. Fortunately, I am meeting people left and right.
Left and right. So we said that we would end this on a positive note. So how does working as a nurse build friendships?
I'm sorry, but if you can't be friends with someone when you're like, there's that like classic nursing meme where it was like something about like wiping butt cheeks together. I wish I can remember because it's funny, but it's like obvious. Like there's no like you are gonna have some of the funniest, like craziest stories if you're not friends with the people that you work with. It's impossible, honestly. Like you're gonna have friends or you're gonna have people that you work with that you're not very close with, but like it's impossible to not make at least a couple of friends because we go through so much together. On top of everything we just said, it could be going through all of this stuff together can be a negative experience, but then you can also take away some positives and like have some lifelong friendships. One of my very best friends in life was someone I met at this job, and one of them is Christopher. Another one, she is like, I'm like part of her family. And I didn't know her from Adam until we started working together by happenstance back in 2017. And the same sentiment of me saying you spend 12 hours with these people at work, like, it can become toxic. It can also become something really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it really can. Yeah, and there's some that, like, there's one of our friends that I have introduced to my family and to my best friend. We
Yeah.
went to a baseball game together,
Mhm.
and I mean, it's because we share the same trauma. We are very similar, and that's the thing. You just like you spend times with your patients. You really you're spending that moment, and you're getting to know that person. And I mean, things happen,
Yeah.
especially if you are working consistently, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
or if there's some places that have like a weekend program, you're working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Like those days, you're toughing it out, and it's you and your crew.
Yeah, it's you and your crew. It really is. And like on most days I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I know that I think people who stay in jobs in the same job for a long time, it's because the people that they work with.
Yeah,
And like you know what you're walking into every day, and you know it might be crazy and it might be the day from hell, but the crew that you're working with, you're like, you look at your assignment sheet and you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna be fine. Like, hell yeah, it's gonna be a good day. Even if it's the worst
yeah,
day,
yeah,
it's gonna be a good day
yeah,
because you're like, all right, they got my back, I got their back. Like, we're gonna giggle about this when someone poops on the floor. Like, we're gonna which happens more often than you think. Like, I'm gonna support this person if, we have to code someone. Like, I got this person's back. Like,
right.
I'm gonna cover their patients and make sure that they get off the floor after this so they can just like decompress and put it back together. Like, because we have to keep rolling. I know probably too much about some of my coworkers, which we've talked about before, and how that can be a positive or a negative. But like sometimes when you know a lot about someone, like you have a feeling for like when they need a second. Do they need a friend?
Yeah,
Like, and the same thing goes both ways. Like your coworkers that you've been working with for years and know you so well that you become close with, like they know. Like I have my friends at work know that I'm terrible. We talk about this all the time, but you need to take your 30-minute break. They know I'm so bad about it. Like they'll come up and be like, "Did you have a snack?" Like, can I sit here and take the charge phone so you can go get some food? Like, just get off the unit. Like that's like love,
yeah.
like that really is love and caring. And it's so beautiful when you have these good, positive working relationships and friendships outside of work. Like tonight I got home from work and I called one of my friends on my walk with my dog. And I was just like, hey, I just need to like decompress real quick and do a debrief on my day. And she was like, hit me. Like, what happened? And I like told her everything. It was amazing. But that's a friend that works in healthcare. She's a nurse. She gets it. She can understand. Whereas, like, if I called one of my friends from high school who I love dearly, they'd be like, "Whoa, that's crazy." But like, I wouldn't get the same
Yeah,
satisfaction out of telling them as I do telling a friend who's been in the trenches with me.
right. There's something about shared trauma.
Hmm. Even though that's really bad, but it's legit.
It is, yeah, and because the reason why it's legit is because you got through it somehow, or you helped somebody get through it, or you're noticing somebody needs to get through it, and you have the tools and the empathy to actually help them through
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah.
it's important. I do want to say, and I'm gonna pop into negative real quick, and then hop into positive. What what changes within your friend group in nursing happened when you went into the charge nurse role?
Oh, like was there a dynamic change in
Yeah,
the friendship group?
because it not in ours,
Yeah.
but in the unit in particular, when I stepped into my role,
Uh-huh.
oh yeah, it changed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I'm glad you brought it up. I really don't feel like there was a change for me
No? Okay.
personally, but I also stepped into the role with already kind of having like a leadership kind of style at work without being in charge. And with that, I think I often had a lot of more years of experience, so people would come to me and ask me questions anyways. So then when I was officially in the charge position, it just was kind of a natural progression as far as work. And I personally, and this could be me completely having blinders on, but I didn't notice like a shift in the dynamic of friendships, honestly. But I also am like, I'm so transparently what's the word I'm looking for? Fair, I guess. And someone has a complaint about something, like all they can complain is that I did it fairly. Like with assignment making, like someone wants to complain about, and I've had people come up to me and been like, this is not like, a lot of times the assignment issues that I have are with the text, and then I explain what I did and they're like, oh, okay. Like I'm really making it fair. Like sometimes they're like, oh, I have a patient in the front and in the middle and this and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, listen, I had to split up the heavy patients. Would you want all of the front right now? It's literally every single one of them is a total care. That's why you have a patient on the other side of the unit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, oh, okay. So like, I think situations like that, like if anything, like I am so transparent, I am so fair that like as far as me being in charge, I don't really feel like there was a change. But then also at the same time that I started being in charge, some of my friends were also getting put into training, into being in charge. Like I definitely was the first one, but then they were like pretty soon following me. So I feel like maybe that's why I didn't see like a big change in the dynamic, because while I was doing charge when I was working, they were doing it while they were working.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just interesting because...
What was your experience?
I mean, it wasn't like drastic, but you can just tell some people like to toe the line to see if I'm going to be a friend or... And we joke about it all the time. They're like, is this A&M Christopher's hat or is this friend Christopher's hat? You know, and
that's it is
difficult. And I'm
it's
like...
a difficult line.
And there are times where I'm like, friend Christopher's going to be like, nah, that you can't do that.
Yeah.
And then A&M's going to be like, but you got to. And, and I've said that too.
Yeah.
And because I do remember when I was on the floor and I didn't want to do things that was said, but you've got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's like, that's your job.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that's your job.
And other duties as assigned, but...
That clause gets me every time.
I mean, I just looked at it today and I was like, ha ha ha, that's a good one. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about this in the last episode and we didn't get to.
Okay.
Let's give the listeners a brief synopsis of how we became friends.
Well, we worked together, which we've touched on already.
Yeah.
And Christopher,
didn't want to be friends with anybody. And our units became one. Yep.
And I would say we started being friends, but it was pretty casual. I forced him to be my friend because I was like, I really like this guy and I want him to be my friend. And so it was an outing outside of work at another coworker's house, and Christopher said I just chatted his ear off.
Oh my God.
He said I wouldn't stop talking.
Bleeding?
No, that's dramatic. But I can't talk. So that's what happened. I accosted Christopher with my words, and I would not stop talking at him because I was like, I want this guy to be my friend. I really like him. He's cool. And that's what happens when I meet people that I like. I just won't shut up because I'm like, I want you to be my friend.
Which is hilarious because I am so introverted and I'm like, why is this person talking my ear off?
And then, okay, so like then he moved. Well, then I think I left before you left. Or did you leave to go to transplant first?
No, you left first.
Okay, so I left the job first and I went to travel, and then Christopher went to transplant. And then at some point I moved in with one of our friends and we lived across the hall from each other, me and Christopher, and it was me, one of our friends who also works with us.
The apartment landing.
Yeah, the apartment landing. Yeah. We lived across the hall from each other. And it was game over after that, really. Like, he couldn't escape me. So once we figured that out, it was like, what are you doing? What you doing? Are you off? You want to come hang out? I threw a Christmas party. This one really broke my heart, guys. I
Oh
threw a
God.
Christmas party,
Here we
and Christopher
go.
is vegan.
Oh my
And so I
goodness.
made vegan food.
Oh boy.
And then last minute, Christopher didn't come.
Oh, okay.
And that broke my heart, but I didn't tell him that until recently, how much that actually hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I felt really bad.
I made him vegan blondies, and then I brought them to him, and he ate them all, and they had espresso dark chocolate in
They
them,
were
and he
so
was
good.
wired.
They were so good. I have this bad issue of if it's in front of me, I'm gonna eat it.
He ate the whole pan. And I was like, yeah, imagine how good they would have been warm yesterday at my Christmas party.
She tried to lay on the guilt, and I just was like, they're still good. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, not knowing that I was heartbroken. I was like, I went and I bought all this vegan food for Christopher, and he didn't even come to my party. But I didn't let that get me down. I persevered, okay?
I appreciate
and now he's
that.
one of my very best friends.
Yes, yes.
And now we have this podcast together. We're raising 2 dogs together. Together but separate.
Yes. Together but separate.
But
we need to emphasize that.
He always got uncomfortable because me and our other friend, we would always say, yeah, we live with Christopher. And he'd be like, no, we don't live together. We're like, yeah, we live together. We have the same apartment. All 3 of us live together. We're roommates, actually. And he'd be like, we don't live together. He'd be like, stop saying that to people.
You know, I have to make sure my game stays strong. And
we were definitely blocking. And now we just moved to the same apartment complex again. We don't live across the hall from each other anymore. We live a few buildings away, but it does not stop me.
It's officially, like, it was one of those things where I was like, well, I was okay with where I was, but Colby was like, I'm leaving. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to leave too. She was like, well, where are you going to go? And I'm like,
because he had to move first. His lease was up. And I was like, where are you going?
I'm like, I don't have enough time to figure it out. So you figure out where you're going and I will follow you. And so essentially that's what she found, this apartment complex.
I did.
I then applied and moved in, and then she moved in a couple of months after.
Yeah, I did all the heavy lifting on that one, but that's okay.
Which I appreciate. I did come to the tour with this particular one. I did
make him come tour with me. We drove to another one and kind of creeped around.
We had tour questions and everything.
We did. We had a notes app. We reviewed in the car before we went in. We were very serious about it, and we fell in love with this one immediately. But we've now gotten multiple friends and coworkers to move into this apartment complex. So we're starting a cult.
Yeah.
Welcome to our cult.
Hello. Can you imagine the documentary we would have?
But yeah, I think it's so fun getting to live and work with you. It's so fun.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. I feel the same way with you. I'm like, yeah, it is fun to work with me. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
No, but it's been helpful too, because like we both have dogs and our dogs are friends, and
they're brothers.
I mean, practically.
Not really, but they were raised that way.
Yeah. Which is wild. And occasionally if I'm like working late, you're able to pick up and like come. She has a key to my place. Yeah. So that
I do.
I don't have to worry about it, because homeboy, I've done to lock myself out.
Yeah. No worries, I gotcha. I mean, your dad locked himself out, and I ran over with the extra key.
Right.
It's all good things. And Christopher takes Trout out for me, and we have this like great symbiotic relationship. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I roast her about certain things. She roasts me about working too much.
There's a lot to roast right now. Wait till the next episode.
Yes, I'm so excited. This was already planned, so this is like destined to happen.
All right. Well. Anything else to add on friendship?
No, I think we're good.
Amazing. All right, class dismissed. That's a wrap for today's session of Nursing Life 101. We hope you found some useful takeaways to bring back to the floor. Remember, nursing is a lifelong learning journey, and we're here with you.
If you want to connect, find us on Twitter at NurseLife101 or on Facebook at NursingLife101. And don't forget to subscribe and share with fellow nurses. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep making a difference out there.